So help us understand, what are the motivating factors for a country to import legal waste in the first place?
Well, I mean, the important factors to import legal waste are really economic factors. The materials are lower cost than new materials, but there are also environmental benefits depending on who's using them for new manufacture of goods.
So then, by banning certain types of waste, what's the impact on countries exporting to China as well as the domestic recyclers within China?
Well, it depends. When you're talking about the impact on the United States, which is where we are, it has considerable effects on the markets of those materials. So they have to find new homes, whether that be domestically here in the U.S. or in other countries overseas, particularly in other Southeast Asian countries. In China, it means that the cost of the materials are skyrocketing. So domestically produced scrap materials in China, so for instance, cardboard, went from about 3,000 yuan to 6,000 yuan, or 900 US dollars a ton.
So then let's also look at the impact of waste imports on the environment and the fallout for it. What sort of costs are we looking at?
Costs on the environment? Well, it depends. Scrap materials are, by their very nature, a little bit dirty, but they're nowhere near as dirty as extracting raw materials from the earth. So anything is going to have some sort of economic and environmental cost. It's just the cost of doing business.
And do you think are bans the best way then of trying to reduce some of this waste that we're seeing and some of the exports that are going out?
I think it's an excellent communication tool. I think that some of the materials that were coming from Europe and from different parts of the United States were indeed too dirty. We needed to clean up our act. We don't want to export our garbage. We want it to be reused and recycled to the highest and best use possible, and to be a honest and genuine trade partner with China.
So in terms of the progress that we're seeing when it comes to recycling and waste, has progress been slow, or are we really seeing a turning point that could be approaching?
Well, I mean, a lot of the processing of recyclables, whether it be paper or plastic, can be highly technical. And there's, optical sorters, there's robot sortation devices that are being deployed throughout the United States. There are ample tools available to the recycling industry to be able to clean up the stream.
Now let's also look at some of the concerns that we're seeing about where this waste will go and if we're going to potentially see a rise in illegal waste imports.
Well, I mean, that's what China has been battling over the last several years. I mean, in 2013, with Operation Green Fence, China did a real crackdown on the import of illegal waste. And now again this year with the National Sword effort, as well as the scrap ban with the WTO, it's all about enforcement at this point. So, I believe we'll see that as we move forward.
And what are some effective strategies that you've seen when it comes to reducing the incentive of illegal waste?
Well, what we think really it's the reduction of the contamination of the waste at its source. So with the Recycling Partnership, the organization I work for, we work on curbing the contamination in the cart at residence. So that way, when the materials go overseas, if they go overseas, they're in a cleaner state.
And Dylan, if there's one major step that you think could be taken to really, in terms of the global effort to curb plastic waste use and awareness, what do you think that step might be?
I think the number one thing to realize is that these materials have value, and to make sure that as they have value, that they're going to the homes that they belong to. So, making sure that we educate the public to put the right things in the cart and make sure that the right incentives are in place for the companies to process them properly.
And Dylan, what do you see as the biggest challenges when it comes to either private companies or governments really pushing more recycling and more responsible activity by consumers and the company producing these goods?
Well, I think the big challenge is how complicated it can seem, but I think that's where I think harmonizing the message of what recyclables are accepted, what recyclables have value, I think that goes a long way to be able to communicate to the public how they can do the right thing, put trash in the trash can, and put recyclables in the recycling cart.
All right, thank you so much. Dylan de Thomas there of the Recycling Partnership.